Okay. Hi, Cail. First of all, I think the obvious question is just how good does it feel to finally get that win against Laval on your seventh try against them?
Yeah, that's a struggle when you play a team like that and you continually lose. It weighs on you as coaches and as players. So that was a big win for us for sure. Guys were really pushing for that, and I think they're pretty happy about it.
And obviously this your last regular season meeting. Playoffs are sort of up in the air, but with the way that everything's shaking out, with them up at the top and you sort of in the middle, it's possible if the playoffs happen wherever you could be playing against them. And with that in the back of your mind, how important is it mentally to know that you can actually beat this team going into the playoffs and have the evidence for it?
Yeah, definitely. It's just that mental hurdle that you need to get over sometimes. And us having a younger team, it's especially important to be able to have that in your back pocket. That look, we know if we play the right way, we can beat this team. And I think that one of the great things about running into a good Laval team is that it makes you better at your craft. It pushes you to get better, and I think our team has gotten better over the course of our series against them.
Okay, let other people go.
Go ahead to Patrick.
Yes, Coach, you mentioned that they can get into your head, and maybe it's an obvious question, but especially with a young team, what are some of the ways that those thoughts can go when you are up against a team that you've had a lot of trouble with?
Well, I think that our troubles of late have been scoring goals, and against Laval, we've had trouble scoring. And I think what happens, Patrick, as a result, is that you tend to actually look for better opportunities than you really need. Look at how the goal went in. The winning goal phrase, just getting a puck to the net. If you look at what we've done over the last 3 games, we've been in a lot of positions where I think we want the guys to take a more direct approach and just pound the puck on the net. But part of the way that gets into your psyche is you think you got to get a little closer, think you maybe have to pass off and create a little better opportunity. So that is an area where I think it affects you. On the other side, it affects you where you play back on your heels a little bit defensively. And instead of being aggressive like we were, to sort of lean back, and that gives them more opportunity.
And is that where you really have to lean on your veterans, someone like Byron Fraze, who will just, from no angle, throw the puck on net and see what happens?
Yeah, they usually, those guys have been through a lot of these type of situations over their career, and they know that sometimes when you're going through, for example, offensive struggles, that the best way to get out of that is just to get the puck on the net. It's not your initial shot, it's what happens after it. And so, yeah, you rely on those guys to lead the way, coach the guys up in terms of, what they're doing and what they're talking about on the bench.
Thank you.
Go over to Paige.
Hi, Cail. How did you feel your team's defensive play factored into the win tonight?
I thought it was good. I thought Garrett Sparks, first of all, was very good. And I thought that in our defensive zone, I remember we had a long shift that was a struggle where we got fatigued before we came into our zone, and that caused a struggle in the first period. And then we had an issue in the second period where we were running a bit. We got out of position and lost some coverage down low, and we had to dive and just save what could have been a goal for them. But otherwise, I thought that we were more steady. Credit to the additions of Pullman, Hamilton coming in, fresh bodies, some good defensive efforts by the guys, and obviously good goaltending.
For sure. And speaking of Sparks, kind of going from last year where you had John Gillies kind of eating up half the games and going to Garrett Sparks this year, who's played the majority of the games so far. How has that transition been for you guys?
Good. He's a great teammate. He works hard and he cares a lot about his group. I think that's something that, as do many of these guys, but the idea that Garrett Sparks, I genuinely feel like he really values whether or not the group does well as a whole, as a team, and that permeates to the rest. I think that's important, and it helps guys play for him, which I think is great. And as you saw today, there's some big blocks. Cole Wilson had a couple of big ones, and guys are willing to pay that price, and they're willing to stand in when something happens around the net. They jump in there quick, and I think that he does a good job there, so they really want to win for him.
Thank you.
Go back to Mike.
So the biggest, I suppose, lineup change that I saw in tonight's game was Zavgarodny getting moved up to the first line with Ruzicka and Phillips. And I mean, gotta hand it to him. I thought he played a fantastic game from my perspective. What did you see from Zavgarodny in terms of his overall game tonight?
I thought he looked good. I thought he looked a little more calm and like, it's funny you say calm and aggressive in the same sentence, but he attacked it a little more, meaning he had some poise and he was leaning forward in terms of his offense. Had a couple looks on the net, was consistent out there, and I thought was responsible. He got a bit less at the end of the game because we're, having the opportunity to get two centers on face-offs in our own zone. So that was a factor for him, but otherwise I thought he was really good.
And obviously, I know I asked you the question in the last game about him getting the goal and then got taken away from him, but they're not going to take this one away from him this time. Do you think, I think this is the third time this year where he's been credited with his first career point, and the first two times it got taken away from him. Do you think that's something that could, get in his head a little bit?
Yeah, I think the goal, we looked at the goal, Simpson scored the goal. But if you're a young man and you score a goal and you don't get properly credited, that can get in your head when you're in a funk, because it can feel like things are piling up on you. But I think, when it comes to points, assists, and things like that, as long as it's true, and which we'll always look at it. If someone, has, thinks they're in, or we think someone's in, we'll always look at it. So as long as it's honest, I don't think it bothers him. Like I said, Zavi's always been really good about how he's handling things, and he shows up with a smile on his face and works hard, and that's not easy for someone who's young and in his position, and so I give him a lot of credit for that.
Absolutely. And my last question for you today is sort of a personnel question, because the Flames made the signing of Ilya Solovyov today, the 7th round pick from last year. Mm-hmm. And I think Ryan Pike reported that he might be coming to Stockton, and I was just wondering if you had any insight into what the plans might be for him.
I don't have any insight. I don't know if that's necessarily, I haven't been told that's happening.
Okay.
And obviously that's before the game, so it's not really in my lane. But yeah, nothing as of yet, but I do have heard of the player, and sounds like a real good, solid young player.
All right. Thank you.
No problem.
Anything more for Cail? Go ahead, Paige.
Yeah, I just had one more. After this game, you guys practically have a week off from games. What are you most looking forward to having this time kind of in the kind of tail end of the season here?
A break for the guys is probably my first priority. It's going to come in different ways, a day off, a practice, a day off, but we've played a lot, and that's a lot of miles to put on bodies especially after having not played in a year. So, and then some good practice time in terms of our team, what we're trying to accomplish as a group systematically, because it's limited practice, limited video, and important for us to really brush up in some areas before we get into this last stretch.
Sure. Thanks, Cail.
Thank you.
Just one for me. At the end of this road trip, do you have any, as far as personnel, just housekeeping wise, what's this injury status for guys right now?
Well, Pullman came back into the mix.
Yeah.
Kirkland is on the shelf at the moment, so don't expect him back anytime soon here. It's going to be a little while. And we have Tyler Parsons at home, who is obviously, not obviously, looks like he should be ready to hit the ice with the team as we get back, which is really exciting for Tyler and for the rest of us. So that's about where we stand right now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.